Today on Everyday Ordinary, we will dive into the lives of two phenomenal black men. One who is expecting twins and the other who already has twins. And what it looks like from the point of view of a man who is preparing for this wonderful occasion. At the time of this particular recording, there's very limited information out there for a black man to reference to in preparation for this said occasion. Hopefully, by the end of this three-part miniseries, you, the viewer, will have gained a greater understanding and learned a lot of helpful knowledge if you're preparing for a child, twins, or any type of addition to your said family. Here with today's guests, I am eager and excited to introduce you to these phenomenal two gentlemen. Over here to my side is a very well-read and charismatic Mr. Kevin James. And to my other side, we have a fantastic, wonderful father that I feel deserves Father of the Year every single year since he became a dad. And this is Mr. Jason Weems. So with that being said, we're going to start off with Mr. Kevin James. Please tell the crowd, tell us all a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Listen, I'm Kevin James. I am a 30-year-old native of Baltimore, now live in Southern Illinois, where I have the pleasure of serving as a pastor of the local congregation there. I am a prospective father of twins, fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. And what brought me to this table, to this conversation, is really when we found out that we were having twins. I wanted to do my best as a prospective father to learn all that I could to support my family and to be able to be knowledgeable as a father. So I'm glad to be here for this conversation. Looking forward to dialogue with these brothers and sharing some information that you can use.
All right, Mr. Weems, please share with everyone a little bit about yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Jason Weems, Baltimore born and raised, husband, father of three, 9-year-old son, and then twin 7-year-old boys. Comedian by profession, former educator, and I'm just happy to be here with such esteemed guests. We got Kevin. Kevin got the serious pastor voice, which is a beautiful thing. I feel kind of intimidated because I don't got that same cadence. But he feel no matter what he's saying, it sounds like it's gonna stick to you.
You know what?
Mine right here, I got to figure out how to stick. I got to do something for myself. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share any knowledge that I have gained just in trial and error and from being around other great dads. So I'm looking forward to talking to these great men, and hopefully you guys can use something that you learned today.
Thank you, Mr. Weems. I truly appreciate that. To all the viewers, I also want to let you know below, within the description, I'm going to add timestamps so that you potentially can get to whatever part of the video that you may want to see initially or may want to go back and review. In addition to that, I'm also going to add links to these two gentlemen if you want to learn more about them on an individual basis. So we're going to start today with Mr. Kevin James. Where were you and what was your first reaction to your wife being pregnant? And then after the first doctor's appointment, when you learned that they were twins?
So it was interesting how I found out. I found out on my birthday.
Wow.
So I had, on my 30th birthday, my wife, she had kept, we were driving home, she kept saying, oh, I think I need to take a test, something doesn't feel right. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. So I end up going to Target getting her the 4-pack. So we can know for sure, right?
The first 3 might have been lying.
Right. So we go, and I'm chilling downstairs, and she, comes down the steps, and she's like, look. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, yeah, there's lines there. And she's like, no, look. I'm like, yeah, you're not pregnant. So she's like, no, read the directions. So I'm looking at it. I look at them, look at her, look at it. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was happy about that.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I kept telling her, because she was so balanced, I was like, I think it's twins. Like, I think you're having twins. And she was like, no, I'm not having twins. The twins run in her family and it runs in my family. So when we went to our first doctor's appointment, she was telling our doctor about it. Yeah. And of course, the doctor didn't believe me. You know, but as a matter of God, I
had a feeling.
Had a feeling
in my belly.
And sure enough, when she did the first ultrasound, she was talking to us and she paused. And she said, oh my goodness. We were like, what? She's like, you're having twins.
Wow.
And so that from that day forward, you know.
And these are your first children?
Yes, this is our first children that we're having.
Right.
So our first go around is twins.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So Mr. Weems, please, and I know it's been some time. I don't know how old your twins are, but please share that with us.
Yeah.
If you can recall to that period, what was that like for you when you first heard it, and after the first doctor's appointment?
When I first found out that we were having twins, it's funny because a lot of the things that you just said, I mean, just echo true.
Yeah.
Same thing with me, twins in both sides of the family. My wife had twins on her side. My father is a twin, but his twin passed at birth.
Wow.
So it's one of these things, it's been kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
Sure.
But we went to the doctor's appointment, and she said it felt different than so my wife's first pregnancy was, you know, a single child. And she just said something felt different internally, just something.
Wow.
And we were at the doctor's, and the doctor cut the lights off and started doing the ultrasound. And then she got quiet. And she was like, there's two of them. And I'm like, what? Arms, legs? And she's like, no, sir, they're two heartbeats.
Wow.
And like literally, it's just one of the moments like in one of those war movies when a grenade goes off. And like everyone's just trying to find wherever you is, and you hear that ringing in your ears.
Yeah.
Because it just shifts everything. Like in a moment. Because you think you're preparing for, you know.
Just one.
Yeah. We're thinking we're going to have two kids, two of us. We play man on man.
Yeah.
And then it went straight to his own defense.
I'm so glad that you put that up because I don't think no one goes in to that doctor's appointment looking. We want to have 2, 3, 4, just one. That's what most people assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, thanks for that. That was it's one of those things that you just don't know what's going to happen, and you go through so many emotions as a man,
Absolutely.
and in preparation for that. So, when did you and who was the first person you told that you were having twins? And after that point, how did you choose to share it with friends and family after those people?
So one of the things that we wanted to do, because the research that we were able to do, we kind of found out, you know, with twins, just kind of the mortality rate in that first trimester. So we really kept it to ourselves that first trimester. And we decided that we would then tell our families, you know, in the second trimester because the rate of survival increases.
So excuse me 1 second, I apologize, but how do you define the first trimester for those who's watching who don't know what that means? Like, how long is that period?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the first 14 weeks of the pregnancy. So
roughly 3 months.
Yeah, they typically go by weeks.
Okay.
How we say months, they go by. Pregnancy is more so week oriented than month oriented.
Okay.
And so that first trimester, anything can happen, right? The chances are that much higher of a miscarriage or things like that.
Yeah.
So we decided we were going to tell everybody, but you know, my wife had told one of her close girlfriends, I had told one of my friends, and then we ended up telling each other that we had told our friends.
Right. They had somebody to tell you.
Right, so I was like, look, I had to tell somebody.
Right, I need someone to confide in, girl.
Right, so I just need to tell somebody. And so, and then quite naturally, because we didn't just have our families, but, you know, leading a congregation, it's like, when do you tell your church? And so we ended up telling our families first when we came home, I believe it was in March, because we hadn't seen our families for the holidays because of COVID. So we came home, told everybody, they were all excited, and then we did a gender reveal. And through all of that, we kind of recorded everything, put that together, and then we showed our congregation.
Fantastic.
And so we were, just kind of able to tell everybody, but man, holding that in,
It's a lot.
it's murder. Like,
Yeah.
you got to dodge people, stop answering phone calls because you don't want to slip up and tell
right.
everybody. But
Yeah.
it was an exciting time. But man, holding that thing in,
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Mr. Weems, same question.
It is crazy. It's one of these things where these stories are so close in nature.
Yes.
that They echo
Yeah.
so much. I mean, just hearing you say the things that you're saying now, it's literally like flashing me back
Yeah.
to these moments. So, my twins, they'll be 8 in October, and my oldest will be 10 in August. So, it's been a little bit since I was at, where he's sitting.
Sure.
But also when I hear you speak it, I'm also very close to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had the appointment at Mercy. My parents were watching my oldest son
Sure.
at home. And when my wife found out, we both found out, she took it extremely hard. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't,
Wow.
it was, straight depression. It was, when we were driving home from Mercy back to the house, it was complete silence in the car. Because I think she's just going through the process of, can I carry 2 people inside of me?
Yeah.
I'm even mentally, my wife's the type of person that she locks into an idea. It's just hard for her to deviate from that.
Yeah.
So in her mind, we were gonna have 2 kids, and that was it.
Yeah.
So now to expand this thing to 3, blew her world up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first people we told were my parents, just because when we walked back in the house, they were like,
They were
"So
there.
what's going on?"
Yeah.
And my wife walked straight past them, and then I tell them we're having twins. But it's this kind of weird, kind of sad but happy moment.
Like, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that you was able to share that side of the coin, because for some people it can be very shocking and daunting.
Oh, yeah.
And not just this rejoiceful moment, even though it's a blessing
sure.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Kevin, when it comes to house transportation preparations, such as like a potential new residence for more space or location for future schooling, then you have like the quality, the room decoration, furniture, yada yada, different vehicle, yada yada yada. How are you and your wife preparing for that?
So I'll say this, and my encouragement, especially to new fathers, communication. Now we say that with relationship period, communication is key. But with this, especially when you're having 2, that changes the game.
Yeah.
So we had to do a lot of checking in. Like, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? Because the house that we're presently in, it was already crowded with us and the pets, right? Because we have 2 dogs.
Okay.
So it's getting crowded in there. So it's like, okay, we need to talk about expanding. What does that look like? What are we gonna need? Of course, when it's just you 2, you're not thinking about school districts and all that other stuff. Now you got to think about, okay, school and everything. So for us, it's really been a lot of conversations,
Yes.
a lot of conversations, a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
And
major.
a lot of talking to other individuals, like yourself, who have gone through this process to really just kind of say, okay, what have you been doing? And one thing that I've learned out of this, most importantly, and thank God for a good therapist, right, is that control what you can, and what you can't control, let it go.
Let it go. Give
Oh,
it
that's a mantra of my own.
Give it
Worry
time.
about
Amen.
only what you can control
Yeah.
and keep going.
You got to.
Yeah.
Because if not, you will stress yourself out.
yeah.
And it's easy to
Yeah.
stress yourself out worrying about, okay, how are all of these things going to play out? And some days you'll talk and you'll recognize, okay, we're not going to accomplish much today.
Right.
Right?
And that's
Because it's
okay.
just too heavy.
Yep.
But it's okay. Let's just take a break, parking lot it. We'll come back and do
Amen.
it. Yeah.
Right.
So, Mr. Weems,
Yeah.
with this particular, me and Mr. Weems, we, like Mr. Kevin here, we have somewhat of a long relationship, but me and Mr. Weems'
Yeah.
relationship is a bit longer than Mr. Kevin here. And I know that you have gone through different stages when it comes to residents, and I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
us having dialogue about school district at the elementary school age and all that things. And
Yeah.
so how did you go about that, especially because you went through it in terms of double strollers? I remember
Oh.
I remember you seeing me with carrying them in one at a time. and going about that in terms of transportation and vehicles
Yeah.
and homes. So what's your intake on that?
It was it's getting thrown in the fire. It was literally because it was the same kind of thing. We were in a semi-detached, we're end of the row house, but we still have a neighbor attached to us on one side, and the size was okay for 2 parents and a kid. When we found out we were having twins, it literally forced us into a house search, into a new car search, and all of these things were on this timeline now. So things had to happen by October 11th or whatever date they put out.
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Ton of it.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So we literally went through selling a house, buying a brand new car, all of this within the already stressful environment of the pregnancy.
Yes.
So imagine going to see 6 and 7 houses, with a pregnant wife carrying twins, who's anxious.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if they're going to come early. So it's all these things. She wants to have time to nest and get the room right and do everything she needs to do to feel comfortable.
Right.
So yeah, it was it's one of these things you just got thrown in so fast. You just have to react.
Yeah.
It's like if you see a kid about to get hit by a car, you're not thinking about anything else. It's like tunnel vision.
Right.
And it's just
Yeah.
So that's how it was for us.
Wow. And it's interesting. So that really segues really into this next thing, and what we're getting ready to get into is financial preparation. And I don't have twins, but to think about that can cause you to sit way back and feel like you don't want to get up, because you have to look into whether you're going to do private or public education, which is an expense, buying double of everything. And then you have childcare versus staying at home. So with that being said, in terms of financial preparation, Mr. Kevin, what are your thoughts? How have you been brainstorming as the man in the situation in the house with this?
So when it came to the aspects of material things like Pampers, clothes, all that, I received some great advice from other twin parents, and that was, when you do your registry for your baby shower, put your most expensive stuff on there, because people want to love on you. They want to love on your family.
Yes, sir.
And don't see it as you creating a burden on people, but see it as an opportunity for them to join in the celebration with you. And so in them celebrating, it's also lessening the stress that you have. And I can say, for us, we due to COVID, we had to have kind of a condensed baby shower with our family, and then did a drive-through with our friends. We have literally received a lot of what we needed.
Awesome.
So we're able to get off on a good footing. But then that also means that for us, we've got to be good stewards, and it's something that we've always just kind of practiced in our relationship.
Yes.
It's just, working on having those skills of money management, not overspending. Now, COVID kind of, messed some things up with that DoorDash and Chick-fil-A always at the house. So I don't recommend that. But
you ain't got pants on, just picking up the food.
Just picking the food up, running in the house, right? That's it. But I would say, for us, we've just always just kind of been conscious of it. Another good thing is that my wife works remotely.
Okay.
And with my occupation, I'm kind of flexible. But we've kind of had to have that conversation of, okay, well, what does that look like? Do we send them right to childcare? Do we get a nanny? If we do, how much they're going to cost us? What does that look like? Exactly. Can we budget for it? So it's been, again, a lot of communication. Talking, and then also putting those building blocks up there, and just recognizing that you're not going to have everything together, to a T. By the time that they get here, you can only do but as much as you can.
Man, hey, Mr. Kevin, I'm so happy to hear what you and your wife have been doing, and I think this is going to be great for all the viewers and how they're going to go about their situation if they're having twins or a child with their partner that they're having the child with. So, Mr. Weems, same idea, But it's going to be somewhat different for you because I do want to hear about, and I'm sure they want to hear about what you went through.
Yeah.
But it's also that same thing as what you're still going through.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, as your sons are getting older, and it requires more because now they want more.
Mm-hmm.
They understand more. They're not just babies, goo goo gaga all the time.
Right.
They want more.
Yeah.
So what do you have?
When we started to prepare, it was thankfully my father's retired, and he was able to step in and be childcare.
Wow, man, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was a game changer for us with my oldest and with my twins.
Especially with relationship with the parent, the
Oh,
grandparents.
for sure, because you want to feel comfortable with who you're leaving your babies with.
And that's tough.
Yeah. What's more important and what's more, and it gave a great chance for my father to bond as a grandfather with his grandsons.
Yeah.
And then it also gave us a little financial rest. It gave us a chance to make a little savings to the side.
Sure.
So when they get 5 and 6, and those clothes are more expensive and things like that, you have a little bit of a nest egg, to pull from.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that. We were blessed, just like Kevin said, with a lot of good folks who really poured into us and gave a lot of great gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that we had to give to other people because we just had too much of, which we ended up doing. We ended up, giving things that were gifted to us, to other close friends.
That's very kind
when
of
they
you.
were
Yeah.
expecting,
Yeah.
just so it's not sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind. But it's also good that you was in that position where you were overwhelmed with gifts.
Oh, for sure. So yes, that's kind of how it was for us. And nowadays, it's literally, I'm always trying to be a few years ahead of where I'm at in the moment.
Yes.
So, like with COVID, it hit a lot of folks in their bank account.
Yeah.
So, that threw off some goals.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's, luckily I've never been like a flashy type of dude.
Yeah.
So I don't go out and blow my money on, cars and clothes and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty responsible in that sense.
That's great.
So yeah, it's really just, having them at the forefront of your mind before every purchase.
Very good. Thank you.
That's good.
Mr. Kevin has said something earlier that's going to really segue into this one, and this could very well be somewhat of a touchy subject based on who's watching and how you perceive this. But moving on, how did you or how are you choosing your physician and the hospital based around the injustices that Black women face in the hospitals nowadays and long ago?
So we were very intentional that we had to have a doctor of color.
Yeah.
And more specifically, we wanted an African American. And so we went through the search, and as I mentioned earlier, we live in the Midwest, so sometimes that's a far and few in between, depending on where exactly you live.
Yeah.
So, we're in Southern Illinois, so of course most people are like, oh, how's Chicago? I don't know, it's 4 hours from me, right?
Yeah.
I'm at the bottom part of Illinois, so closer to Missouri. So it really is far and few between of, African American doctors. And we just prayed.
Yeah.
We prayed, we asked God. God led us to the right hospital, right doctor, and just kind of talking with her, we knew we had made the right decision. Just listening to how she specialized in the care of our people. She's the department head for their department, and she's the chief of staff. So we were like, oh yeah,
it's
right,
no,
you in, right?
no brainer.
Right. Show us called
Right.
process.
Like, go ahead, it's gonna go.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so we just knew we were adamant that we wanted someone, and to even just kind of not to throw us off, but for my wife, these last few weeks have been very emotional. It's just kind of been an emotional roller coaster, and to be able to have a safe space where you can talk to the doctor, and she was just very transparent about her pregnancy.
That safe
how
space
she
is so
felt,
important. Yeah.
and how she went through emotions, and it's really just literally stopped the whole physical aspect,
Exactly.
and set and actually like, okay, what's going on with you?
Checked in mentally.
It really made us, we knew for sure we had made the right decision. It was a God move, and that God's hand was, definitely on it. So I say, do your research, go after what you want. If
Yeah.
you know, especially to our people of color, if you know that you want someone that can identify with you culturally, that can identify with your health needs, because even in our African American community,
different
right,
stuff, yeah.
we have some different challenges. And you want to be able to have a doctor that understands the ins and outs,
Absolutely.
you know, of your body or your wife's body, your partner's body, because it's going to be very important, you know, as you go through this process. So,
Thank you very much, man. That was very good, and I know
Yeah.
a lot of people will benefit from that. So, Mr. Weems, same idea with the same thing, because I know this was some time ago, but you still may or may not be faced with that. But and also too, considering, do you still have the same physician, or did you have to switch?
Oh no, very blessed, very similar in a sense. We knew that it had to be someone of color, and I knew I wanted a black man because I had sons.
Right.
So my wife was driving to work one day, literally, she used to work down near the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, and she said she was driving and she saw a young black doctor standing on the corner who looked familiar to her. And then as she got to work, she was like, oh my God, I think that's so-and-so's husband. So a girl who she went to high school with, it's her husband.
Okay.
Who's a black pediatrician at
Wow.
Mercy, the hospital we were already at. So she hit her on Facebook, like, what's up? Like, they're homegirls.
Yeah.
And he was like, come through. So we went down, we saw him, and it was immediate love.
Wow.
He's the same age as me.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, it's one of these things, he grows with my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Great connection.
Yeah.
Just as I am.
Yeah.
He's right there side by side. And
Yeah.
he has children of his own, so we got a great fit. And we've been, shout out to Ashanti Woods, shout out to Ashanti.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
the greatest pediatrician on earth. But he's just one of these dudes, I can call him at midnight, I can text him anything. Half the time, I'll take a picture of a rash on one of their legs.
Yeah.
And what's this? And before
Man.
you know it, he sends the medicine to the
That's a
pharmacy. So
that's fantastic to have
Yeah.
that personable connection, where a lot of us out here in the world, we don't have that individual intimate connection with your physician, where you can do things like text them at any time of the day, any part of the week,
yeah.
to share whatever it is that you're going through with your said child.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, so it's been a blessing, and he's still right here with us till to this day.
Wow.
So this next one is going to be a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, I find it to be extremely necessary. Are you making and going to make time for date nights and TLC for each other from each other?
That's a great question. So I will say this: just like in marriage, it's easy to get comfortable.
Yeah.
It's easy to get comfortable going through this process that you sometimes can become so focused on, you know, them, the babies, and the planning of showers and all this other stuff, and planning that you can neglect, you know, that romantic side.
Yes.
And then COVID kind of added to it, because Tuesday
sure.
nights were our date night. We would always do movies.
Yeah.
On Tuesdays, we would go to the movie theater, and because they had $5 Tuesday.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We would go
All right,
right.
man, you going on Wednesday, girl?
Right. Nah, more expensive. But so one of the things we've tried to do is we like to do little adventures, like go to the zoo or you know, go to aquarium here. Where we're at, the zoo is free. So we go over there, we walk around, and in fact we talked about that, you know, when we go back. That's one of the things we want to do is just, you know, go to the zoo, go see the animals, walk around and stuff like that. So we're doing it, not perfect at it, and I'm sure it's going to.
Hey, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's going to
Always.
definitely be heightened in us being intentional when
Yeah.
they get here.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're just doing the best we can.
That's it.
I say do the best, make the time, put it on the schedule, make the time.
Please do. Mr.
Yeah.
Weems,
Do we make, was the question, do we make time for date night?
do you, are you? Yes.
Okay.
Especially, I guess,
Yeah.
more or less in your stage of life where you are not
Right.
necessarily asking you to go
Yeah.
back to then,
Yeah.
but like now, because I think this is when it's
Yeah.
even more vital.
Right. We try to create moments. A lot of it may not be us physically going out of the house,
Okay.
But
Hey, it's
you know,
in-house dates. I
right,
mean,
but it's like a hard plan to, okay, we got to get the kids in bed by 8:45. You know, both of us got to have our showers by 9:30, and we sitting in bed together by 9:45.
Yeah.
Like those types of plans.
Yes.
And sometimes it might just be us sitting side by side. She might be editing pictures on her phone. She likes to be creative and do little posts on Instagram and stuff. And me, I might be writing jokes or looking through something.
Yes.
But it's just physically being close with one another in the same space. And sometimes that turns into a conversation. But as far as physically getting out, it significantly dwindled.
Hey, do you have any idea, like, at what point that might have happened, or you felt like it might have started happening maybe at a certain age that they were, or
Almost right out the gate.
right off the beginning?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He's like, what about my movie? It's $5 on Tuesday.
Right.
Right. He just kick all the stuff over.
Yeah.
His interview was over. Literally almost instantly, because one, it's the pressure of leaving your kids with other people. It's
that was concerns. Yes.
It's your comfort.
Yes.
Because sometimes people may offer, you know, we'll watch them.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, you talk yourself out of it.
That's
know?
true.
They're not ready for it yet. It's more so you're not ready for
Right.
it.
Yes.
They
So,
children.
they're good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm gonna share something that is not really a part of this dialogue, but just you made me think about it.
Okay.
How I've heard, and if you want to say something really quick about it, please do. You'll have parents, mostly what I learned are women, having separation anxieties from their child, where they don't want their child to be far away, and you know, a lot has to do with trust and who they're going to let them watch. Even sometimes I've heard, even with the husband, they have struggles with that. They don't want them to be too far, especially in the earlier periods.
Right.
About that, and I know that has to be even more of a struggle, according to what you said.
Luckily, I didn't have that exact challenge. I think one, the type of guy that I am naturally, I take on a lot more of the roles that you would typically attribute to a female.
Right.
Yeah.
In the sense of, I'm very nurturing. I'm very attentive. You know, when my kids are listening, I get eye level and talk to them.
I think that's
Right.
really quick. That's part of the reason why I say, based on what I know, and I'm sure Kevin will be the same as Father of the Year every year, because of his level and his ability to be attentive, to be nurturing, to be caring, and it always seems natural to me when I see him. It doesn't seem like it's work, where someone else it might be like work because it's just not who they are.
Right.
Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, so I mean, to his point, so for me, I have a 10-year-old goddaughter that I've been really in her life since the day she came out, or before she came out.
Yeah.
And so I've always, I mean, you're talking 2021, carrying a whole diaper bag, lugging her around. She going with me to different places. So I love nurturing. You know, and I think a lot of times we think that that's only the motherly aspect, right? But as fathers, when you understand your responsibility, and you want to be a part of it, you want to be in it, you're willing to, okay, what do I got to do? Let me get in there and do what's necessary. So I'm looking forward to it now. You know, I'm not rushing for them to get here, you know, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity to, you know, love on them and just see them, look at them, love them, kiss on them, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Because this is a part of me, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm truly thankful for that. Understanding this is a very unique situation because a lot of men do not have that within them. And I'm hoping that this part of the conversation will help encourage them and realize the benefits of that going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Like, I'll go to a playground with my kids. I was at the playground from yesterday, and literally, you know, when I get out on the playground, I'm chasing them. I'm running through the things with them, where other parents may sit on the outskirt and let their kids go.
Yes.
So before I know it, I'll have 10 or 12 kids chasing behind me because I'm this superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because I actively insert myself in all of those activities. I don't mind making a fool of myself. I don't mind looking silly. Like, if a group of thugs is walking by me, I'm still gonna be kissing on my son's cheek. And
Bro,
I still
that's
swing on you.
Right.
that's so phenomenal. I kid you not, because of putting your pride aside,
Yeah.
putting your ego aside to not be concerned with everyone else. So I want to get on to the next thing.
Okay.
In these early stages, Mr. Kevin, how are you mentally preparing to juggle work, career, and home life? For you, just you as an individual, as the man.
That's why I say it's good to have a therapist.
Amen.
You can talk about these things,
Yes.
right? Because when you think about it, it's overwhelming. It's just like, okay, this is something I've never done before, and I know how I am with my work. I know how I am with my relationships. You know, I know how I am with myself. And then, you know, even getting into a space, like I said, for men, you know, we have our own emotional stuff that we deal with going through the pregnancy process. And for me, just turning 30, you know, that's kind of another crossroad. So just kind of going through my own stuff.
Yes, sir.
I think it's definitely good to have somebody that you can process this information with. And so for me, mentally preparing has been sitting, talking with my therapist to develop a plan
Yes.
that makes sense
Exactly.
to me,
For you,
right?
right.
And I also understand that plans, you know, they're plans, so they can be readjusted.
Very true. Very true.
Sometimes they can be scrapped, you know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then sometimes it goes according to plan. But I at least have that plan that I've just been working through, you know, with my therapist. So again, I just encourage, especially for new fathers, you know, have that safe space where you can talk and unload and just be honest. I don't
sure.
know what the heck I'm doing. So how do I, like, what comes first? What do I do here? And
Exactly.
allowing that person to help you to walk the journey. And also being honest with your spouse about your capacity.
Exactly.
Like where you are, what you can do, what you may feel you can't do.
Yeah.
And that way you guys can talk to discover, okay, who's going to do what? Or what are you taking on? And what are you trying to take on? And it may vary week by week,
Exactly.
right? So just
But
doing
it helps
that.
avoid conflict. It helps
Yeah.
avoid resentment. It helps
Right.
avoid all of those things that can take, you know, nest in a marriage.
I
Even in
appreciate
family,
your humility with that whole thing, man. And it takes a lot for a lot of men to express that and to act on it,
Yeah.
as well as your transparency. So, Jason, do you have anything you want to contribute to that?
Hit me with the question one more time.
So, in the early stages,
Yeah.
this is during those first 9
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
How did you mentally prepare to juggle work, career, and home life, especially because
Yeah.
your career keeps you on the road, on the plane, quite often.
Yeah. Thankfully, because of my profession, I was able to just stop shows. You know, I'm in control of my calendar. I'm in control of my booking. So it's one of these things of I was able to not have to report to a boss and say, can I take this time?
Yes, sir.
I was taking a major hit financially, but I was able to kind of be, you know, boots on the ground
Peace.
at home and be stationary. But as far as during that time period, I didn't really speak to a lot of folks. Me naturally as a person, I don't know, I tend to overextend myself, especially with my children, in the sense of, you know, I could be dead tired and really just need to sit down for a little bit. But I often push through it. But at the end of the night, it's to my detriment.
Right.
So it's not until just recently. I mean, I love the fact that you're bringing up therapy. I literally just started with a new therapist. Like, I'm in my second session now. But, you know, I wish I had that, you know, when I was first entering into it. You know, I would talk to my homeboys, you know, but they can only speak to you from their level of experience.
Right.
Or from where they are. So
Yes, very true.
Yeah. I got a lot of my mental anxiety out on stage.
Okay.
So I transferred that energy that I was feeling. You know, I think humor has a great way of kind of shifting perspective.
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So this next section that we're going to go into is essential in so many ways. Essential to what your children will come out to be in a way. So, starting with you, Mr. Kevin, how are you supporting your wife during these first 9 months? And has it been challenging with keeping in mind her career and what it may change because of what she has going on in her stomach, as well as exercising for continued strength. And I'm going to expound on that for a second, because exercising not only for her strength to be able to work through this, but it's also to recover, because I feel confident, I'll say, that most women want to get their body back. And if they're working and they're exercising through it, I believe that their body will go through that situation a lot better. Also, healthy eating, because there's a lot of women who tend to have these very unique cravings and will fight you when you want to make sure they eat their greens and their vegetables and all that kind of good stuff when they just want to eat protein only. And then then you have the emotional highs and lows, the mood swings, and self-esteem struggles and I can't speak to your two wives, but I know a lot of women, their bodies change through that, whether they might have swelling or all these different things. How are you as a man going to try to support her with that?
Right. So I'll kind of backtrack it.
Sure.
And just really kind of talk about leading up to these 9 months of pregnancy, like, and what that has looked like. So I'll be honest. In the beginning, it was easier because you don't see any physical changes. And again, like I said, she was very emotionally balanced. But I think probably about maybe the second month or so, it shifted. And I'd have to admit, I don't know how supportive I was beyond just like going to doctor's appointments, making sure that she was eating, her greens and things like that from an emotional aspect. Because, and again, I say this in full transparency, that for me as a young male, again, turning 30, having my first, children, and again, it was exciting, twins, right? But then the reality of life hits. And I've always been used to being a very responsible individual. I've been in ministry since I was a kid, right? So always helping people. I mean, most of the time I was counseling adults as a teenager, right? So I'm always used to holding responsibility. And so now it's like, I'm entering into another phase of life that now it's more responsibility. And then you still working through who am I, right? Because now I'm growing in another stage of life and being sure that I'm not losing my identity in them, that I think I kind of checked out for a minute in battling with my own emotions. That again, therapy, I'm just putting it out there, has really helped me to come back to be aware of being supportive. And having those tough conversations to say look, I want to support you, in this, but I also need us to get to an agreement that we understand that as partners, you're not the only one that's experiencing these emotional highs and lows. Right? And being honest with where you are. That, today ain't a good day for me emotionally. Or in this space that we're in. So for me, in the planning and how I can support, it's just being authentically myself.
That's awesome, man.
And being honest in those conversations where if it ain't a good day, what does that look like? And how can we still partner in this thing together for the sake of raising them? Because once they're here, it's no longer about us, it's fully about them, but also not losing ourselves, because you don't want to essentially drive yourself mentally insane trying to show up and be on empty.
Mr. Kevin, thank you very much for that. That was very insightful. Mr. Weems, same thing. Is this a rehash for you? Just how did you support your wife during those first 9 months with her career at that time, exercising, helping her keep her body strong, physically, mentally, healthy eating, emotional highs and lows? How did you manage that? How did you support that, mood swings, self-esteem, things of those natures?
It was constant communication, asking her how she was on a day-to-day basis. At times, it would avalanche to me because like we talk about, you know, we're constantly checking on the woman
Yes.
because obviously they have the kids. They're very important in this process.
Absolutely.
But there is a complete other side that often goes unnoticed. With fatherhood, with, you know, just being a man and what a man is supposed to represent for his or her, for their family.
Right.
So it's tough because, you know, I know a lot of times I found myself trying to be strong unnecessarily.
Okay. I like that.
I found myself, you know, I wasn't talking to anybody. It was me and her in the house. You know, I would only get so honest with my parents when they would ask me, you know, how are you doing? How is she doing?
Yes.
Because I don't want to give a negative,
Yes.
you know, outlook of her to them.
Yes.
But all the time, you know, I'm keep stuffing it down to me.
Internalizing a lot, sounds like.
So, I mean, it was tough. My creative outlets always helped me. And, yeah, I mean, I just really just tried to, just day to day, you know, meet her where she was.
That is a awesome line right there.
Because
Awesome.
it would shift.
Yeah.
What she needed on Tuesday.
And that's a lot. I think that's a lot on you, man. To try to meet someone where they are.
Yeah.
Naturally realizing that majority of women are more emotional than men are. Men typically are more rational thinking, more kind of, you know, no gray area, black and white for the most part. But try to meet her in those places, randomly,
and it's
that's
tough.
pretty tough.
Because, you know, she's fighting depression.
Right.
I'm fighting depression. It's,
Yeah.
you know,
Right, yeah.
It's all the feelings of what's coming. It's the unexpected. It's, you know, do I got enough money for this? Do I got everything that you're thinking about constantly? But then you're also trying to show up and be, you know, a rock for somebody.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's you definitely touched on several key things that I know for sure that a lot of the viewers, men and women, will greatly appreciate.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kevin, this one won't be as loaded as the ones before. So, but at the same time, it's also part of the process. So, what was the process that you went through when it came down to name selection for two twins? With you having fraternal boy and girl, and then also the godparents, whether you choose one for both or a separate for each.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we found out that one of them was a boy, it was no brainer. We already knew this is going to carry the name, right? You know? So that was a given. But then when it came to the girl, my wife and I, we were just kind of going back and forth with names, and we wanted one that, you know, embodied our, you know, spiritual beliefs, and then also a name that would also embody our ethnic, you know, makeup.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, how do we do this? And so we ended up talking about one of the names that we really, really liked from the Bible was the Hebrew alliteration, which is Sarai. So in English it's Sarah.
Okay.
But in Hebrew scripture it's Sarai. Okay. And so we were like, okay, but how can we add a little finesse to it? You know, and so we were like, all right, well, we'll put the at the end. So we came up with the name Saraya.
Nice.
And it means beautiful princess.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then we like, all right, middle names, what are we coming up with? So we just try to go to, and I'm like, well, do we want to, you know, make it a complicated middle name? Do you want her to have your middle name? She's like, no. So we coming up, and so we were running through a list of, we were going back and forth. Should it be Addison? Should it be Madison? I told her, I was like, look, you pick. She was like, all right, well, we'll go with Madison.
Okay.
So that's how we came up with Soraya Madison.
That's beautiful, man.
Now, godparents, we still praying on that.
Okay.
It's like, you know, because you have close friends, but you might not necessarily trust your
Exactly. With a human life.
With a human life, right?
Right.
You know, or if you do, it's like, but is that, all right, let's keep praying on it. So we still waiting on the Lord to tell us who it is.
Right.
Hey,
Check my voicemail.
I get that.
Right?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so that's to be continued.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Names, oddly enough, all three of my sons, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan, like a fanatic.
I can't wait to hear this.
I can go any life situation that comes at me. I got a J bar to go right with it.
Okay.
So my oldest son, his name is Sean, like Sean Carter.
Okay.
Me and my wife both big hip hop fans. His middle name is Christopher, after Biggie.
Okay.
So Sean Christopher Weems.
Okay.
Then my twins, we wanted them to both have names that didn't box them in.
Okay. That's important nowadays.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So Liam is one, and then we have Emery.
Okay.
So clean names.
Yes.
Their middle names we get a little blacker.
All right.
Once you get past that first name,
Yeah,
what's up, partner?
Right.
Yeah. So Liam's middle name is Nasir.
Okay.
Also one of our favorite MCs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then Emery, his middle name is Amir. So after
Nice.
Questlove.
Very nice. Very nice. That's dope.
So they mean something to us.
Yeah.
When we call them their names around the house, it gives a different energy.
Yes. Yes.
All of them know who they are named or who their name is kind of attached to.
Yes.
So Sean, he loves to talk about Jay-Z and all types of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It gives me a chance to teach them about stuff that I'm interested about.
Right.
Especially as they get older. I can't wait till they turn 16 and 18 and we can ride around and listen to all the Jay-Z.
Right.
Play this one for you. So that's how we got their names. And Godparents, same thing. We don't have any.
Really?
Don't have any. I mean, we got people who
help out?
Yeah. If something go wrong,
Right.
you can go stay with them for a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's about it.
Yeah. But after
Well,
that-
at least now we realize that it's not that easy.
No.
Sometimes you may have a feeling when you get started, then something comes along, or sometimes you may have an idea for a godparent, and then they show you something different. Ultimately, you're looking at somebody who's going to be responsible,
Right.
who you feel that you can trust if something happens and you need them to be their caregiver.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that from you both.
For sure.
So here's another one that I think is very interesting, because not until recently this hasn't necessarily been the most popular thing for fathers. But it seems like they're getting more involved, and I'm happy about that, because I think the father should be involved in every process as much as possible
Absolutely.
throughout this whole thing. So we're talking about baby shower participation, ideas, involvement, and do you know what do you know about that?
So for us, I definitely, from the new school of thought, if we want to say it like that the baby shower is a mutual experience. That it's not just about, the mother, but bringing all of our family together, because I really believe the African proverb that it takes a village.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so if it takes a village in these special moments, we need our village to
Yeah.
really be there. So when we were talking about planning the baby shower, that was one of the things I was really adamant about, is that we had a representation of both sides that were there to really come together to show that mutual love, that everyone would have for our children. As far as getting into the details, I gave my input.
Yeah.
But we let the event planner run with it.
That's good.
It's kind of,
Yeah. Make it nice.
Just fit the bill, right?
Exactly.
So,
I got send you your deposit.
right, and I had a say in the menu of what
Okay.
I wanted.
Okay.
Got you,
All right.
man.
All right. You got some level of involvement.
Yeah.
That's
we need
good.
rib tips.
Yes.
Right. Everything else,
Y'all do
you
what
can
y'all
have,
do.
but make sure the
You
food.
better make sure them rib.
Thank you, Kevin, for your input. So, Jason, to you, baby shower participation,
Yeah.
involvement. So,
Well, luckily, my wife's aunt is one of these types of women who literally live for these types of events. So,
yeah.
like, she took it over. It was just like, we need a baby shower. And she was just like, okay, just come to my house on this date.
Okay.
And the food is spread out, gifts everywhere. She sent out the invites. So it was literally a hands-off experience for us.
Yes.
Which was nice. It was nice to have a chance just to, like Kevin said before, be loved on.
Right.
And, just kind of sit back and bask in that moment.
Right.
Because it's got so much stress and anxiety tied to it. It's nice to have those little brief moments of reprieve
Sure.
where, it just feels like a celebration.
Right.
So and that's what it felt like. It was, And luckily, my wife and I, we dated for years before we got married, so our families were already kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
So when everybody gets together, it's just love anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't really feel like her family or my family. It's just like,
I
oh, there
got
go
you.
Uncle so-and-so, there go.
Yeah.
So yeah, my shower experience was very seamless and enjoyable. And then, yeah, my twins, yeah, same thing. Twins and first were both done by.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the input on that, and
Absolutely.
I know the viewers will benefit from that. So this next one is kind of one of those questions that nobody wants to address.
Okay.
Everybody just kind of want to dodge around this, and it's just natural because we're just thinking about everything that's going to go right. So, Mr. Kevin, and because it's something that you're more or less going through versus what Mr. Weems is mental preparation for yourself and your wife in the event of a miscarriage, stillborn, premature, both, one makes it and the other doesn't on the actual delivery day.
So this is something that, again, I think from the beginning, just kind of when I was talking about the first trimester, we've always just kind of been cautious. Like, what can we do to at least on our end, right? But there's a reality that there are just some things that you cannot control. So that's why we have that support system, just being able to talk with each other. It's definitely something we don't want to think about.
Yeah.
And definitely kind of having a conversation with my wife. She's just like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to talk about that. So I know, and you know, God willing, none of that is something that we will experience. But in the rare case that we do, I know one thing for sure is our faith is very important to us. But then having that support therapeutically and family-wise, I think that would be very important too. And even to the point of if it was just one that made it, I think it would still be an adjustment, you know, because it's that reminder that there's still this missing piece, you know. That's
Yes, sir.
there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Weems, what are your feelings on that?
Well, thankfully we didn't hit any of those walls.
Right.
My twins did come pretty early.
So they came before they was due.
Oh, absolutely. Probably about a month and a half early.
Wow.
Yeah. And even
Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
I was a preemie. I was born 2.5 months early.
Okay.
I came, you know, we shared a birthday, December
Yes,
21st.
yes.
But, you know, I was supposed to be born in like March and came that early. So
Yes.
when my twins came, you know, we still thought we had a little time left.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully we didn't hit that wall.
Yes.
And I think during the process, if I'm reflecting back on it, I think we just didn't give any energy to that thought.
And I believe that most people don't want to.
Right.
You know.
But I feel like it's almost like the law of attraction. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, thoughts become things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a thing that we obviously didn't want. So all of our thoughts were about life and, you know, what it's going to feel like when we see them and hold them. And so it never really went down that path.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it did.
Yeah.
I will share one thing about that. So I do know a female friend of mine, and she went through that. She went through the situation, and she might be viewing this, I don't know, but she went through where she was expecting twins and only one came. And based on our conversation, it has taken her quite some time to get through that because I guess, for what I recall of our chat, she was expecting two, one came, so kind of she felt somewhat of an emptiness where she wanted another child.
Yeah.
And it's just that emptiness, I guess you would say, the lack of being whole that she went through, but she's championed her way through it, which I think is a great thing. But a lot of people may handle that thing differently. So I definitely wanted to share that before we move on to this next thing.
Sure.
So, Mr. Kevin, how are you preparing for the actual delivery day? And what I mean by preparing, I mean like getting your vehicle ready, getting the house ready, getting work ready. And because of what Jason just said, it makes
Right.
it even more interesting
Right.
because you really don't know when they're gonna
What's
come.
your time, right?
When they're gonna come because the physician has their prediction, but then like his sons, they had something else in mind. So
Yeah, so for me, I've already begun to, kind of make those adjustments at work, putting plans in place because again, for me, it's almost like a CEO not being in the building anymore.
Exactly.
So just kind of making sure that structurally things are together. I have not started as far as like the packing of the bag and all that. Now I'm actually excited for that. I got my little checklist and all that. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that, and I think once we get back, since we've had the baby showers and things like that, we'll be packing just in case, to have things there. And then of course we have another appointment, so we kind of get to see them.
Gotcha.
So I'm hoping that they, try to hang on as long as they can. Right? Let us at least have some of the summer, so that we can just chill out.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's just, I think you can just prepare as much as possible, and again, what you can control, you control. What you can't. Okay.
that's true.
Yeah, and that should be the slogan for parenthood.
Yeah.
What you can control, because literally every day you can just wake up and then by 8:30 somebody falls and hits their tooth.
Yeah.
And now you're at the dentist office, and that shifts the whole trajectory of that day. And you just gotta be open. Like a kid will wake up and just be in a different space mentally, and you gotta be with them. So I mean, control what you can. But parenthood is like just falling. It truly is. It's like being on the building, just falling backwards, and just trusting that you're gonna land safely.
Sure.
But it's so much about just surrendering.
Right. So, Mr. Kevin, how are you? And you kind of touched this, so I'm pretty sure you're not going to say a whole lot about this, but how are you, or how did you confront the need for a confidant you can trust with sharing your real emotional and personal feelings, and also help with random things?
So again, twofold. For me, from a psychological standpoint, it was therapy, having a therapist there, and then from I guess we could say from a more personal friend standpoint, I have my friends that I could lean on, and one of my friends actually being a multiple parent themselves,
Sure.
So being able to just kind of talk about those things, that's been beneficial for me.
Great. Mr. Weems?
During the time.
During the time.
I'm trying to flash back to, being a parent.
I felt it. I felt it.
Sometimes it's hard to remember yesterday.
Yes.
So flashing back, almost 8 years with my twins now. During that time, I honestly don't remember at least one person that was, specifically for that reason for me. I mean, maybe I unloaded little parts of what I was feeling,
right,
to random folks. I remember specifically sitting with my wife's aunt, who's the one who throws the amazing baby showers, and we were sitting in the kitchen floor of my old house, and we were regrouting the floor together. With a grout saw, sawing it up and putting the new grout in.
Right.
And I remember just having like a very deep conversation with her about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And she's not my mom, she's not related to me by blood, but there is a very special connection.
Yeah.
And she's one of those types of people who just makes you feel comfortable.
Gotcha.
So in us just doing this manual labor of whatever, we got caught. And I think that was a big bright spot for me.
Right.
During that time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And there's another sort of touchy thing. What we're going to go into next is about the potential of preeclampsia. And for the viewers, if you're not sure what that means pregnancy complications characterized by high blood pressure. Signs of usually swelling of the hands, feet, and protein in the urine typically comes around, if it happens, around 20 weeks. And that's part of the reason why it's in this first part. So, Mr. Kevin, any thoughts?
Yeah, so thank God we had the glucose test. Everything came back great.
Yeah.
So that's been a blessing, and we're just praying going forward that we don't
Stay that way.
experience this.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for me, that's such a topic that's close to my heart and close to home because with my twins, my wife did experience preeclampsia.
Oh, wow.
So she was on bed rest for probably like 8 weeks leading up to
Wow.
going towards the pregnancy. But then the twins came early. So
Yeah.
when we went, it was just a regular doctor's appointment. It was one of our scheduled just to check on the
Yeah.
twins. And we get into the office and they're like, they're coming today.
Wow.
So we weren't even prepared. Like
Yeah.
I thought we were driving down to Mercy, gonna park, being there for 30 minutes, and then we
Come
were back
out,
home.
right.
And it completely, in that moment, it was, no, you're not going home. You're gonna have a C-section, and it's happening now.
And it was due to the preeclampsia?
It was due to
the how-
preeclampsia. At that
Wow.
point, they had been monitoring it, but it got to a point where they felt as though it was putting the children in danger and my
Right.
wife in danger.
Right.
So it's crazy. My wife's mother is a pharmacist who works at Mercy.
Yes.
So, I get on the phone and immediately I'm trying to make all these phones telling, hey, come upstairs, Dion, so on and so forth. I'm calling my parents to pick up my other son from school.
Yes.
I'm calling all these people trying to get these motions in place.
Man, that sounds like a very stressful,
Oh, yeah.
1,000 thoughts
Yeah,
coming in at one
yeah.
time, and you can only respond a certain way. It's just like, and this just leans to a part of this dynamic is what men go through
Yeah.
that to make things work that sometimes don't get talked about. Sometimes, unfortunately, may not get credit for. And I'm very happy that he was willing to share that, what I feel is very intimate detail.
And it was a scary time because it was one of these things of your head goes to Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
And the wife, passing at birth, or one of the kids not making it. So when it got thrown into that hyperdrive of all of these things happening right now, it did put me in a space of I was very uncertain,
Yeah.
and I was
Sounds
really
very scary.
on pins and needles the entire time.
Yeah.
But then I also remember holding them for the first time, being in that room, and them bringing them over to me, and seeing them both actively breathing. So I mean,
Wow.
yeah, and it washes over you with like a sense of calm at that point. But then once you realize that your boo thing is good, your wife is good, then you can kind of relax, and then just the regular stress kind of comes back in.
Jason, man, I truly appreciate that. That was extremely profound, everyone. So, Mr. Kevin, we're getting ready to wrap this up with this one. How are you planning as the man? This is definitely a man's question. How are you planning to deal with, and this is another kind of maybe potential touchy thing, and how you go about it, but how are you planning to deal with false alarms? False alarms meaning you're at work and you're in the middle of something and you get that call and then it ends up not being that day.
I mean, I think it goes back to our mantra, man.
Yeah.
Control what you can, and I think it comes with the territory. So
Yes.
understanding that it's not her fault.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not the kid's fault. It's just a part of the process, and sometimes it's those things that it may not be this time.
Yeah.
Could be the next time.
Yeah.
But either way,
Yeah.
just be ready.
Exactly.
Just stay
exactly.
ready.
Yeah. It's so important as a parent to be proactive than reactive.
Yeah.
And that's what every day I wake up, I try to plan for as many things as I can. Okay, we're going to the park. I'm gonna put Band-Aids in the bag. I got sanitizer, I got water, I got snacks, I got asthma inhaler. Now, if something might happen at the park that I'm completely not prepared for.
Right.
But 9 of those things I am.
Right.
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 And I got gas in the car for the other ones. Like if we need to get out of somewhere quick.
Right.
So for me, it's really kind of trying to have some foresight, looking deeper into every day, and kind of when you have kids, you should stop thinking about yourself as much.
As you should.
It's rare, that I even sometimes I go to bed and I feel like I haven't even talked to myself during that day.
Yeah.
Because you're answering so many other questions.
Absolutely.
You're standing in, filling the void for other things, for other people. Because sometimes you feel like you lose yourself. But it's always for a greater good. Like, what better thing to lose yourself for than your kids? They're going to carry forth your name. They're going to carry forth the legacy.
Right.
So, like, every day I go to bed and I feel empty. I felt like I did a good thing. Like I gave everything I had to them.
Yeah.
That day.
Because you just never know when it's going to be the last.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing I do want to add to this part is this: these two gentlemen are both in a somewhat of a unique situation from probably the majority of the people out here. In a sense, you could say they're both business owners, so they have a lot more flexibility. But there are a lot of other people who may have a state job or federal job, or just may work for a private company, and that flexibility to get up and go may be a bit more challenging, even though they're going to have people understanding and you're going to prep them, but the way they go about it may be a little more challenging. And I wanted to express that for those who may not be able to directly identify with these two gentlemen, and their actual lifestyle may be a bit different, their work life may be a bit different. And I wanted to make sure that you understood that I'm aware of that. So at the end of this all, we're going to wrap this up by saying this: your 100% devotion to your children, twins, for those 18 years and beyond, because they did not ask you to come here. You must be here, and you must continue fighting for them because they need you all the way. Thank you all for tuning in and watching and seeing us all the way through. Please stay tuned for the next episode, the next part of this mini-series, and what we'll discuss is the actual delivery day. Until we talk again, thank you.